I think the future is Mainu and Ugarte there in the midfield for them. Like to see Mason Mount get fit again and be able to have some success. I think they need to build around Mainu and Ugarte and build them up and continue to have that success with them.
Do you think there's anyone likely that could move out of this team?
So difficult in January to obviously to make moves. I do think that they need to shed some of the players that they do have before they start bringing new players in. But it is interesting. Let's look through the squad, because I do believe that there are a lot of players that maybe shouldn't be in this squad if this Manchester United team is going to take that next step.
Certainly. I mean, Onana would be one of the players, and we were talking with Ian the other day, I think it was on Monday, we said, OK, if we look through this team, we went for a starting 11, who would you keep? And Onana was one of the ones. I think we had 3 players that we would keep in the side. So Onana, you know, he has made his mistakes, but yes. I think a lot of that is explained by the defence he's got in front of them. But, you know, they've got one clear goalkeeper. A bit of a drop-off when you get to Biendir and Tom Heaton, who's obviously the third-choice goalkeeper at 38 years of age.
Other issues to worry about than the backup.
Yeah, that's not the problem.
Right.
If we move on to the defenders, some of the names here that, I mean, you could pick a whole load out of here. Who would you keep from this?
It's difficult. De Ligt has underperformed since arriving. Harry Maguire is a player who obviously is a leader in the locker room, but has underperformed as well. Yoro is someone I'd like to see a little bit more playing. Lisandro Martinez, I think, is a solid central defender, but also can have, you know, some lapses in judgment as well. I really do like Mazraoui. He's someone that I do think can be successful under Ruben Amorim. We'll need a little bit more games under his belt and maybe to get accustomed to the English Premier League. So it is interesting. Luke Shaw, when he comes back, will he be someone that's available consistently for Manchester United? It is a difficult. You look at this and you say there are some players that can maybe continue and take this next step forward with Man United, but is it enough? I'm not sure.
I think when you look at this group of defenders, you can understand exactly why they're so frail at the back. There isn't a clear 3. I mean, he likes to play a 3 at the back. Yep. You know, even if you were to go for a 4, there's no one that jumps off the page that is really going to, you know, keep it solid at the back.
I mean, you look at Liverpool, where they've had Virgil van Dijk and Konate at the back for such a long period of time, where they've been so successful. And they don't have that continuity because it's just been constantly just trying to find the right combination for what seems like years now.
Let's kick it on to the midfielders, because there are a couple in here that you potentially could see some potential from, of course, and players that he might want to spend some time on the training ground with and give an opportunity in the first team. But there's also, for me, it's frustrating to see players who have been given an opportunity and some high wages at Manchester United. You wanted to kick on. I mean, Mason Mount's one who struggled with injuries. We saw him get another injury recently. But I thought, you know, given the promise that he showed at Chelsea, he was a surefire man in the England team, to not been able to kick on, and again and again and again, that's what we see with these Manchester United players.
Yeah, I look at these midfielders and I just say it's not good enough. And I think the only ones that I look at that I think have a part going forward in this team, obviously the youngsters, Collier and Gore, still a lot to develop. Mainu, Ugarte, and Bruno Fernandes, he's 30 years old, the captain of the squad. Not sure if he should be the captain of the squad after what we've seen from him in the last recent weeks, just making some decisions that are just very puzzling. I think the future is Mainu and Ugarte there in the midfield for them. Like to see Mason Mount get fit again and be able to have some success. I think they need to build around Mainu and Ugarte and build them up and continue to have that success with them.
And we saw against Newcastle, Casemiro is 32, but he looks about 40 the way he's playing right now. And Christian Eriksen, I think, is some way past his best. So I think those two you can't rely on in the way that you could earlier on in their careers. In terms of forwards, I suppose the one for me that I've really enjoyed watching so far this season, and particularly in the Manchester derby, really put a shift in, and he's one of the few players in that side that you see endeavour and energy from every single time he steps onto the pitch, is Amad Diallo. He's only 22 years of age as well, so I think Amorim, you can see with the way that he's deploying him and the way he's spoken about him in interviews, wants to try and build at least something around him. But a lot of the rest, again, similar to the rest of the squad, have just underperformed.
Yeah, I think Amad Diallo has probably been the most exciting attacking player for Manchester United this season, or at least the most player that you can get excited about his future with the club. I think Alejandro Garnacho is still a very, very talented player that has a lot left to give. I do think that there are some issues with him behind the scenes as well, and as far as where exactly they can deploy him on the pitch in that attack. Marcus Rashford, a player that obviously on the way out had so much success and really has just dropped off so much for them. Anthony obviously has been a failure. I think there's no other way to say it since he signed with the club. I think Xerxes has some talent will need to get used to the Premier League.
Amorim doesn't seem to be a fan of him.
Doesn't seem to be a fan of him. Like I said, I still think he has talent to be able to develop, but he's going to have to prove it to Amorim for sure. If I'm a Manchester United fan, I look at this and I'm a little more excited about this than I am about my midfielders and my defenders as far as the future. Because you have some players that have a lot of talent that just need to be in the right system and playing the correct football and more football to be able to have the success with Man United.
And Højlund has shown some flashes,
Agreed.
hasn't he?
Yes.
He's only 21 years of age, so we have to give
Can't forget that.
an
He's
opportunity.
only 21.
You forget how young he is.
Yeah.
So from this, we've then picked a lineup that he could potentially go for if he did have all of these players available. It's one of those where you look at it and you think, I mean, where would this team finish in the Premier League even if things were going well? And what would you say, top 10?
Yeah, I mean, you would hope
for
top
example,
10
the
for
teams in the top 6 at the moment, how many of them would take any of these players? I'm not sure that many at all.
Not many. I mean, maybe Diallo, maybe Mainu, just because of just how much talent they have and how young they are, and they can build and develop them. But I mean, look, we're having Bruno Fernandes out there on the left, just because where do you put him in this team? I don't know where he's best deployed as well. It's a team, it's a roster and a squad that is not complete. And especially with Ruben Amorim, it's not built to his style at all. So something's going to have to give. And if he has these players available, he might have to put this 11 on the pitch just to find results. They're sitting bottom half of the table and pretty low on that bottom half of the table. At some point, if they continue to lose games, they play Liverpool next, which is obviously a tough one for them at Anfield, it's going to be, they're going to have to start finding results. And, you know, I was having this conversation and it's like, okay, it's not that Ruben Amorim's job is already in peril, but at some point they're going to have to start winning games or they're going to be fighting for relegation. Manchester United fighting for relegation it's just mind-blowing to even think that. So he needs to get all the players back and find, if it's not this 11, a 11 that's going to find ways to just find results, because that's where we are with Manchester United at this point. It's that level of panic at this point.
And if they don't turn it around quickly, they are going to be in a relegation battle. We're not lying when we say that. Now, one of the names we've clearly left out of this team, given the way it's been going recently, is Marcus Rashford.
Yes.
And he kind of hit back, didn't he, at some of these, what he says, false stories in the media over the last few weeks about potentially his commitment to the side and explaining why he's been left out of the team. He was on the bench, wasn't he, against Newcastle, but he was left out of the squad altogether for a few weeks prior to that. Been a lot of false stories written over the past few weeks, but guys, this is getting ridiculous. He never met with any agency and he doesn't have any plans to. That story in The Sun saying that Marcus Rashford steps up bid to quit Manchester United and potentially move on to a different club. Do you think it's just better for him, Ruben Amorim and Manchester United in general to accept what's been going on and move on?
At this point, yeah, just because I feel like it's gotten already too messy when you start seeing these type of things in the media. And it's frustrating for him as well to see all of these reports after he's been loyal to the club, but by all accounts, very loyal and a very, quiet, doesn't cause a lot of issues offside the pitch. So it is interesting to see him this frustrated, and he's got to be this frustrated because it's not his choice to be left out of the squad. He wants to play. He wants to be playing for this club that he loves and he's been with for his entire career. So it is interesting to see that frustration from him, and it's gotten to this level. I think it's time for him to find a new challenge and for it to be a clean break so that it doesn't get any messier than it already is.
The issue for Marcus Rashford is where does he go because of the wages? He's going to have to take a huge pay cut. I mean,
yes.
he's supposedly on over £300,000 a week at Manchester United. And there's not many clubs in the world that can afford that. PSG being touted as a potential option. Would he want to stay in England? But it doesn't immediately jump off the page where he would go.
And would he even want to stay in England and go play for another club to face his beloved Manchester United? I don't know. It is an interesting situation. It's sad to see because a couple of seasons ago, he was absolutely on fire, one of the top players in the Premier League. And it's sad to see how quickly it could all go. But I mean, we saw it to a little bit lesser extent. We saw it with Dele Alli. He was kind of, playing very well at one point for Spurs and doing so many good things, and all of a sudden it just all went downhill. It's happening right now for Marcus Rashford, and it's sad to see because of the talent he has. But I do think for him and for everybody involved, it might be time.